Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. About that time during the offseason where you're trying to find those breakout teams heading into 2024. We're going to go conference by conference, take a look at one or two kind of teams that I think exceed expectations in the 2024 year. These aren't necessarily teams that I think are going to win a national championship during that 2024 year, but these are teams that I think are going to be a lot better than most people think in that 2024 year. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. It's getting to that time where we're taking deep dives into a lot of these different programs. Y'all know I have a blast doing it. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. So if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear some other teams that you guys are sitting there believing in 2024. If you're a college football fan like myself, every single offseason, I kind of identify my kind of teams heading into 2024. I'm sure you guys have some as well. Drop them in the comment section. I think we're going to do a lot of different episodes like these in terms of looking at breakout teams, those teams flying under the radar. So let it fly in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start in the ACC, and I'm going to cheat right off the bat. I have two teams that I want to talk about in the ACC, and it seems like when you talk ACC football, and I'll say hand up, I'm included in this, a lot of people just talk about Miami, Florida State, and Clemson. There are a lot of good teams in the ACC this year. A team that I think is flying under the radar, Virginia Tech. And this is a Virginia Tech team that is number one in the country in returning production. And I think that is a stat that is becoming more important in this era of college football. I think you look at Michigan in 2023 and say that was a perfect example. Yes, they had a very good team. They had a lot of, NFL draft talent. But I think more importantly, that was a team that was together for the last couple of years, and they kind of ended that run with that national championship in 2023. And I think furthermore, a lot of college football programs with the transfer portal being such a large part of the sport, they're just churning through players. There are not a lot of programs that have a lot of continuity heading into a football season. Virginia Tech, certainly one of those teams. And outside of just the returning production, the vibes check on Virginia Tech, where Brent Pry has this program going. I think a lot of Virginia Tech fans that I have talked to are certainly very excited about what 2024 is going to bring for Virginia Tech. And then you start looking at some of the other aspects that we like about this program. I think you look at the quarterback and say Kyron Drones, one of the more talented quarterbacks that we see in the country. And although didn't fully put it together in that 2023 year, you saw him significantly get better. This was a high 4-star coming out of high school. He has really all the talent in the world. They started running the football a little bit more. They're going to play really good defense. They brought in some nice transfers as well with guys like Aeneas Peebles. I think this Virginia Tech offense can run the football. It can hit the explosive play. Then you look on the defensive side, they were one of the best pass rush units, not only in the ACC, but in the country. This Virginia Tech team is checking a lot of boxes heading into 2024. One of my teams that I think is going to be really dangerous in 2024. And I'll say my last thing about Virginia Tech is you look at Virginia Tech. If they start winning some football games early in 2024, you have some really good teams heading to Virginia Tech to play. That is one of the most difficult environments in all of college football to play and win in. I think Virginia Tech can be extremely dangerous in 2024. Next team I want to talk about, this SMU team. And I think the question marks you have with SMU are, they were really good at the group of five historically for the last couple of years. They're going to make the jump to the Power 5 level, the ACC. Can they compete with the big dogs in college football? And I think where you want to look first is the line of scrimmage play. You look at I think one of you guys put it in the comment section. I thought it was a brilliant point. You look at kind of the biggest differentiators from the group of five to the Power 5 level, or I guess Power 4 level, is line of scrimmage play. Right, a lot of the group of five teams, they might have the offensive weapons and the skill to compete at the Power 5 level. They don't have the line of scrimmage play. You look at SMU, historically a very good defensive line, but you look at what they've done on the offensive line. They bring in 2 Power 5 tackles from Arkansas over the last couple of days, have done a brilliant job in the transfer portal, acquiring that kind of Power 5 talent. Rhett Lashlee is a great coach. I think Preston Stone is a phenomenal quarterback. They got a lot of weapons for Preston Stone to get to work with. Jalen Knight and LJ Johnson, really good running back room. You have some dangerous guys in that wide receiver room as well. I look at this SMU team and say, we knew that they had the skill positions to be competitive at the Power 5 level. Do they have the line of scrimmage play? From what they've done in the portal, bringing in guys like Jared Harrison Hunt and the Arkansas offensive tackles, I think they might have some really good line of scrimmage play even for that ACC level. I'm a believer in this SMU team, and I think that win total sitting at 7 games. If you guys are looking for a high-value win total, I think SMU – I think they're one of the better teams in the ACC. And so I think that is really worth a look. The next team we're going to go out to the Big Ten and talk about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And I mean, one of the reasons why I'm so high on Nebraska, and I think a lot of people are high on Nebraska, is, they had such bad turnover problems in 2024 or 2023, excuse me. They won 5 games with being one of the worst teams in the country in the turnover margin. If they just clean the turnovers up marginally, you feel like they're going to win 6-7 games. And then if you say, all right, Dylan Raiola coming in as a true freshman, can he be that guy? They might win 8 or 9 games. And I think another storyline that not a lot of people talk about when they talk about Nebraska, I didn't say anything groundbreaking about the quarterback play and turnovers, massively improved in the wide receiver room as well. That was a real problem for Nebraska last year. They were extremely banged up in that wide receiver room, had to start multiple true freshmen when it was pretty clear that they weren't able to play. You look at this Nebraska team, what they've done, bringing in Jamal Banks, my opinion, one of the better wide receivers in the ACC for Wake Forest, a guy like Isaiah Nayor, all those young guys are now going into year 2 within this program. The offensive line got a lot better. The running back room was completely depleted last year, losing guys like Gabe Ervin and Ramir Johnson early. They're better at wide receiver. They're better at quarterback. They're better at running back. They got better at all the places that they were just not good enough in 2023. And then you look at the defensive side of the football, one of the best defenses in the country last year. They returned a ton of the guys, and they're going into year 2 with Tony White. We normally see defenses take that year 1 to year 2 jump under new defensive coordinators. We saw it with Jim Knowles at Ohio State. I think this Nebraska defense might even be a little bit better than what we saw in 2023. So you look at this Nebraska team and say, you won 5 games in 2023, turning the ball over like one of the worst teams in the country, not having many playmakers in the wide receiver room, having a really bad quarterback play. All 3 of those get better, and then we might say the defense might get better as well. I look at this Nebraska team and say there are a ton of things to be excited about. And I guess the last thing I have in my notes, number 3 in returning production. So that's a stat that I think I'm putting a lot of stock in heading into 2024. Because again, not a lot of programs in the country are keeping their teams together. There's not a lot of continuity. There might be some really talented teams with not a lot of continuity. Virginia Tech was one of those teams. I think Nebraska is one of those teams that did a really good job holding on to their roster, made sneaky good additions in the transfer portal. I look for Nebraska to have massive step in the right direction in 2024, going to the SEC. And I tried to pick a team that I think a lot of people are excited about, but I might be more excited than most, and that's the Auburn Tigers. And I think there are a couple different reasons to be fired up about Auburn in 2024. One, Hugh Freeze going to be a little bit more hands-on with that offense. We were so excited about what this Auburn offense would be in 2023 with Hugh Freeze taking over. It was really clear that Hugh Freeze did not have much control of the offense. That didn't look like the Hugh Freeze offense going into 2024. He's been extremely vocal that this is going to be the Hugh Freeze offense. But then you start looking at the personnel and say, Peyton Thorne was a guy that wasn't even in for spring practice last year. We weren't even sure if he was going to be the starting quarterback till 2 weeks before the season started. And so it was probably to be expected that Peyton Thorne was going to struggle. I think he's been in this program for over a year now. I think he's a little bit more confident in this offense. But I think more importantly, we said about Peyton Thorne when he committed to Auburn, you need to put talent around Peyton Thorne. He's a guy that was really good at Michigan State when he had Keon Coleman and Jaden Reed to throw to. Last year, the leading receiver was their tight end, Rivaldo Fairweather. The wide receiver play was a disaster for Auburn in 2023. It gets so much better in 2024. You look at the true freshman Cam Coleman. For those who maybe don't follow the recruiting trail during the offseason, Cam Coleman, I think he has the opportunity to be one of the better receivers in the SEC immediately as a true freshman. You bring in Keandre Lambert-Smith, who I've been extremely vocal that I think is a phenomenal receiver that was just rotting away at Penn State. You have Robert Lewis. I think you get better on the offensive line. And then on the defensive side of the football, a lot of young talent on not only the defensive line, but also in the secondary as well. Guys like Kay and Lee. I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that Auburn team that won 6 games last year can probably take a massive step, especially on the offensive side of the football in 2024. Going to my last team, going out to the Big 12, and there was, I'm going to use this word my dad always uses, smorgasbord of names. I don't even know what that word means. I hope I used it in the right way. There were a lot of teams that I could have gone with for the Big 12. I went with West Virginia. This was a team that I thought Neil Brown was going to be gone at this time last year. If you would have told me Neil Brown just won a lot of football games in 2023, he's going into 2024, still has his job 12 months ago, I would have been extremely surprised. You look at how this West Virginia team is kind of put together, returning their quarterback, returning that running back room. They got to replace some things on the offensive line. I thought they lost some really good guys on the offensive line like Zach Frazier, Doug Nestor. Look at this West Virginia team and say, I love how this offense is constructed, right? They run the football 62% of the time. That was number 6 in the country. The only teams that were running the football more than West Virginia were the military academies. But I think what's more important than that is they ran the ball extremely well, 5.2 yards per carry. That was number 14 in the country. But then in the passing attack, although they didn't throw that often and quite frankly, didn't throw for a high completion percentage, Garrett Green was number 8 in the country in yards per completion. They hit the explosive play. And so they run the football. They force safeties to come into the box, and they can beat you with that explosive play. We talk about it all the time, running the football, explosive plays, 2 of the most important metrics that you can have on the offensive side of the football. I think West Virginia checks all those boxes last year. They returned a lot of those guys who were their difference makers coming from 2023. And then on the defense wasn't great last year, extremely banged up in the secondary. I think this West Virginia defense could maybe just improve based on just staying a little bit more healthy in 2024. This is a team that is very, very difficult to predict the Big 12 because there are a lot of teams I believe in, UCF, Texas Tech. There's not really that team that I think you peg as the lock to win the conference championship. I think you have some favorites and guys like Utah, teams like Utah and Kansas State. There's a lot of teams. If you told me West Virginia is playing for a Big 12 championship game in a couple months, I wouldn't be too surprised. I think this West Virginia team can be extremely dangerous. I think a lot of the teams in the Big 12 can be extremely dangerous. I went with West Virginia. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. I know you guys have your ideas and your teams that you believe in. Throw them in the comment section. We'll chop it up. We'll probably run one back with some of the names that you guys put in there. Appreciate y'all rocking with it. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.